How's it going, people? Jack here and welcome back to the Chill Zone, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Chill Zone. So today I'll be checking out some more from the Minutemen channel, and Milo has a interesting video here on creationism. More specifically though, a creationist propaganda book, which I suppose is one of those that gets like introduced into the curriculum. I tell you, these things are interesting. The thing is this, okay, as a former Christian, a very devout one at that, you do not need to believe in creationism, especially young earth creationism, the type that believe that the earth is like 6,000 years old, to have faith, okay? You do not have to. I had plenty of friends. Some of my favorite people in the world remain my Christian friends with whom I used to proselytize with, and their fields within physics, pediatrics, mathematics have not prevented them in having their faith. So obviously you can have that. When it comes to certain like existential discussions and whatever have you, morals on how to handle life, that's where we can kind of disagree about certain things. But like on the fundamentals of how it is that the world works, you can have your faith and science too. There are points though where it tends to conflict with each other. Biology, even in the realms of astrophysics, I've heard that one before, cosmological models. It can get quirky at times, but this is not about me. I am likely going to be dropping some anecdote and or some factual stuff during this video that you might find interesting. But Milo in the thumbnail, who is posing as a, I don't know, archaeologically accurate Jesus, is going to be telling us about an interesting book. So without further ado, make sure to go and subscribe to his channel and let's get into this one.
Creationism. You know it, you love it. Many years ago, in the year of our Lord, 2022, I had a P.O. box open. A place where viewers could send me nice little things that they made, you know, letters, drawings, stuff like that. But every once in a while, a viewer thought that it was the perfect opportunity to send me something to make me suffer. And it was a certain Jay Bergman in August of 2022 who decided it would be a wonderful idea to send me this. The Science of the Physical Creation in the Christian Perspective. It's exactly what it looks like. It's a creationist science textbook, if you can even use those two words in the same sentence. And for almost 3 years, it's been sitting on my shelf, looking at me. There's an evil energy that radiates out of this book, and it's been calling me towards it like the One Ring. So today, ladies and gentlemen, it is, I guess it's not really a great pleasure. It is with my deepest condolences that I must present to you this. Buckle up, fellas. It's gonna be one of those videos.
Ooh, nice After Effect works there. Whomever the editor for his videos is, so good. It kind of has like the, oh no, not BuzzFeed, Jesus Christ. No, Vox editing style sometimes. It's great. I love it. The Thinking Man. Again, I want to preface this, he's likely going to be saying the same thing. Please, if you do not like to have constructive criticism and you think that this might affect you, I know that I do have some rather religious viewers still. Please feel free to skip the video, okay? None of the words that are being said here are supposed to be mean-spirited. They are but constructive criticism, and sometimes that can feel a bit harsh.
All right, I feel like I probably should address the elephant in the room first, which is, you know, everything.
Yeah,
you guys have seen my studio before. It's a little bit rough. As I've talked about, this is a really old house. It was built in like 1880 something. So there's a lot of work to be done, especially in this formerly beautiful room that's now my studio. So we're actually beginning that restoration process now, and in doing that, this is happening. You know the ceiling? You guys love my ceiling. Well, my ceiling is coming the fuck down. Currently, as I film this, directly off screen here it's actually kind of amazing that this manages to be off screen, but there is about 36 trash bags completely filled with squirrel shit infused rotting fiberglass insulation. So that's really nice, I guess. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi. It's got a certain, I don't know how you say squirrel shit in French.
D'écureuil?
Merde d'écureuil.
My team and I are working on a really big project right now. No, not Atlantis. I know. I'm working on it. I swear to God, in every video with you people. Don't.
I have the weird suspicion that the reason as to why they haven't done this just yet is that they want to make it like, you know, I want to say comic book accurate, but like movie accurate. He won't get a haircut. Please, do not cut that hair. It's beautiful. But him like wearing the actual Milo costume, that will hit hard.
Sorry, Atlantis is coming. When it does, you'll know. You can't miss it, all right? I'll make sure you don't miss it. And if any of you do, I'm going to be livid. But my team and I are working on sort of similar to like the Philip Ziba videos from last year, where we're looking at a particular account and going into it more deep than we ever want to. But a large part of the account that we're going to be talking about is creationism. So I thought that today would be a great day to rip this bad boy open. I broke out my nice little stand here. Check this out. It's an old lectern, a goddamn an antique store, and I got this. A cosmic little thing IPA from Sierra Nevada, not sponsored. Though I should probably get a beer sponsorship. That's a kind of a gimme. You may be thinking to yourself, oh, look, Milo, another fucking hipster. He loves his IPAs. No, I actually hate IPAs. But I'm man enough to admit that I'm not drinking an IPA because I like it. I'm drinking it because it's 8% and I have to talk about a creationist textbook. All right, I even have a...
Fair. I drink tonic water. That's a Danish producer, and I just like tonic water. When I used to live with my parents, I had the privilege of sometimes making it myself. That shit was too strong. Always got cheery eyed when I made it, and I'm really still getting it right now, just thinking about it. But yeah.
Secondary camera here. Look at that. Big YouTube guy has 2 tripods and 2 cameras. I don't know why I didn't say that. That is actually way more of
for the book.
That's not really a flex, I guess. I'm a YouTube guy. What the fuck else would I do with my time and energy? All right, we're live on this little camera. Wow. Oh yeah, that actually looks great. Now you can see the floor that's covered in, you know.
Merde d'écureuil.
Okay. Why don't we have a look at this book? Oh, I forgot. I don't even need to hold it up because I have a secondary camera. I am literally the smartest person probably ever. So a surprising amount of this book is like actual textbook, which kind of threw me for a loop. You know, when I see a book that leads with science of the physical creation in Christian perspective, I kind of assume that there's going to be a lot more creation science woven through it. And don't get me wrong, there is, but there's also a lot of just like general science knowledge, you know? I think the best way to illustrate this is by looking at the table of contents. Here we have, you know, general introduction to the sciences, and then we have our meteorology sections. And within each one of these, there's definitely a lot of, you know, creationism, but there's some things that creationism just doesn't really work with. You know, it'll explain how an El Nino event works, and it's not going to say like the El Nino is created by God. It's just a weather pattern, so they actually explain it in an actual way.
Wait a minute, I don't even think that I remember how to properly explain an El Nino event, which is the warm water from the equatorial, or at least Pacific Ocean, that gets heated up, and then you have the eastwards winds that meet that, the moisture rises into the air, and whatever happens. Storms, hurricane, typhoons, you name them. Usually it would happen like, I want to say every 5 or 6 years. Actually, it used to be a lot more than that, but given the way that our globe has been heating up lately, it's been happening a lot more. But I can't remember why it's called El Nino though. It stands for the child or the blessed child, but why?
You won't be surprised, you know, the places that really have the most, you know, creationism in it comes in our chemistry and geology section. Now, I'm not a chemist. In fact, I loathe chemistry so much that I failed it the first time I took it. I am literally the smartest person probably ever. So there is nothing on earth that I want to do less than read about chemistry, and especially read about chemistry from a creationist textbook. So instead, I want to really hone in on probably the juiciest part of this book, which is obviously the natural sciences section, and most specifically, this section right here, chapter 11 on interpreting the fossil record.
Oh boy. Well, you kind of are going to deal with some chemistry there, because inevitably fossil records will lead to biology. Biology will lead to chemistry. And if you want to push it further, you can actually lead into physics.
Within it are 3 different subchapters: history of the Earth, the record of the rocks, effects of the flood, lack of transitional forms, evidence against evolution, and the evolution of man, a mistaken belief. So we are in for a real doozy with this one. Okay, real quick also, before we get into this, I want to make one thing very, 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 very abundantly clear here at the beginning of this video. This is not an attack on religion. This is not an attack on Christianity. This is not an attack on faith or God or any of that. TLDR, in case you don't know what creationism is, God love you. I'm unfortunately about to strip that
innocence,
blissful ignorance away from you. Creationism is the idea that the world and all the creatures on it were created in their current form by the Abrahamic God,
Yahweh.
There's a woodchuck in my yard. Okay, atheists, you say that God didn't create the world and all the creatures on it. Why is there a woodchuck in my yard? Anyway, it's the belief that the world and all of the creatures on it were created in 7 literal days by the Abrahamic God. Oftentimes, creationist beliefs go hand in hand with the denial of many different branches of science. Everything from biology to chemistry, geology, and most of the natural sciences. This is because a general understanding of what we know about all of those fields disproves the fact that the Earth is 6,000 years old. Now, this is where it's very important for me to add that most religious people and most Christians are not creationists.
No.
Creationists make up a very small subset of that. You do not have to be a creationist in order to be a Christian. And if you are a Christian, you don't have to be a creationist. You are completely able to accept and understand all of the beauty and science of this world and still be able to believe in a higher power and a creator. So none of this video is an attack on anyone's faith. We are here to talk just about actual science. And that goes for everyone watching this video who doesn't believe in creationism. Don't, for the love of whatever God there may be, turn this into an opportunity to be like, haha, religion bad. It is mega cringe. I don't want to see it. Fucking stop it. Don't do that shit, all right? It's not 2013 anymore. Anyway, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive right into this. Chapter 11, Interpreting the Fossil Record with the History of the Earth. It is so hot in here. I also just need to say that. That's another reason we're ripping the goddamn ceiling out, because it is. You guys thought I didn't have my thermometer, did you? You see that? Took it off the wall because I'm like, I'm gonna need that. And then I did. I quick drawed it on you. I quick drooled on you. Pause. Okay, yeah, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit in here, so that's nice. I love that for most of the year this room is, you know, completely unlivable because it's too cold, and then for the rest of the year it's completely unlivable because it's too hot. Conflicting views of the beginning. That God is the creator of this world is an undeniable truth. Can't argue with that, I guess.
Oh, it says so in the book.
It's like, speak your truth, queen. The founders of modern science supported the truth of creation, and the laws and principles of science also affirm it. Nevertheless, many scientists today have rejected creation. Instead, they credit chance, time, and energy with the origin of the universe and all that makes up the physical world. The belief that the universe and all that is in it originated by natural processes over billions of years is referred to as evolution. Contrasted with evolution is the biblical principle of special creation. Instead of relying upon thoughtless chance, time, and energy, special creation depends on a creator, the omnipotent, all-powerful, and omniscient, all-wise God.
And that's where usually arises the appeal to the complexity of life. The human body, the world around us, the phenomena that we experience are all so intricately made that they feel design. So thus, like a clock or watch is not naturally created out there, it must need a watchmaker. Thus, the world needs a creator. No, complexity is not indicative of a design. It's quite the opposite. And if you are going to be arguing about a designer manufacturing all of these things, that individual would have done a pretty sloppy job. Like, why the hell do I have narcolepsy? I could fall asleep right now if I wasn't focused and my brain wasn't being super active. If I right now sit still and don't do anything and just relax. By the way, I got a sofa. Wonder why I got a sofa in the office. Have you guessed it yet?
I'm just saying right now, not to throw shade at the big G up there or anything, but if he was all wise and all powerful, why the fuck did he make us eat and breathe through the same tube? That seems like a bit of a design flaw. Unless, I guess we were created in his image, so he also had the design flaw. Maybe that makes me feel a little better, actually. Special creation refers to God's work of calling the universe and all that is in it into existence ex nihilo, out of nothing. This is a really good example between sort of the difference between, you know, scientific consensus and faith. And again, nothing wrong with faith, but here they're trying to imply that somehow thoughtless chance, time, and energy is a worse explanation than Magic Guy went, I don't know, and maybe it's just because I'm not like a religious person, so I'm not steeped in this, but like, isn't that like more of a stretch to try and understand than evolution happening?
Yes, it is. It literally is. And also like the misrepresentation. In the same way that I would argue when people are like misrepresenting actual biblical scripture, that please don't do that when you're trying to explain things about the physical world or physics. The Big Bang is not just an explosion out of nowhere. It's about a concentration and expansion from a single point. Does not mean that the energy came out of nowhere. Like in the void of nothingness billion years ago, a certain force created the expanse of space and time. Nobody has said that, okay?
Call me crazy, I don't know. Theistic evolution is a modified form of evolutionary hypothesis which attempts to reconcile the Bible and evolution. According to this view, God created all living things through a process of evolution. This theory states that God was responsible for the initial creation of life, but then employed the evolutionary process to complete his work. Although some Christians accept this view, most realize that it is not compatible with the biblical record or the established principles of science. I don't know if it's incompatible with the Bible because I'm not as well versed in that. Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13:33. Those are both numbers, yeah. Book of...
He did not. Okay, fair. So, wait. Oh, that's the Facebook video. I have yet to watch this. Okay, I should be checking that one as well. It's likely going to be talking about the Nephilims, right? We kind of brushed around that in the last video. Fucking AI giants.
Numbers? That's crazy. I thought that was called the Yellow Pages. But I would also say that I don't think that's necessarily incompatible with the established principles of science. It is a little bit of a God of the gaps, where it's kind of like, because we don't know exactly what the moment was that life was created, you could just say that God did that, and then evolution explains the rest. So if that's where you want to believe in God, sure. That means at least you're not denying evolution, which is quite literally undeniable.
Yeah, a vast majority of even the... I'm willing to bet that they're going to be citing a bunch of scientists here who were Christian, or at least believed to a certain degree in a higher power. They mostly believed in something like Spinoza's God. Wow. Why did I have such a difficulty saying his name? But who believed that God himself was not an actual creator, but whatever entity it was nature itself. Like my mom, as an example, believes in nature. She is no longer Christian because that has been an entire arc in our family that was very problematic. So leaving the church, she believed that whatever God is nature personified. And I'm not gonna argue about that with her. It brings her some calm solace in the way that she does things, and that's good for her. But similarly to her, a lot of those scientists at the time would be viewing nature in that way, as being that higher power that needed to be understood. And then of course there's the deistic approach of like, yeah, there was a God that created something and then just pissed out and never interacted with anything.
I'm sure there's going to be some people who disagree with that. I don't know how they've made it this far, which would be pretty amazing. Thank you for giving this a chance if you've made it this far and, don't believe in evolution. But I promise you, it literally is. Like, we have an extensive fossil record that shows the evolution of organisms. There's that fucking woodchuck again. Oh my god, he's so cute. He's so round. Can I get a photo of him? He's just going to look like kind of a brown ball on the yard.
Aww.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about geology. We must understand and acknowledge that man has been an observer of the Earth's history only since his creation, and that modern science has been studying the Earth for only 400 years or so. Geologists are therefore limited to observing the Earth as it is today. They cannot speak authoritatively about the Earth as it was in the beginning or in ages past. Therefore, science cannot make authoritative statements about the origins of the Earth. This is just not even true. That's just what geologists do. I don't even know how to it's debunked by the mere existence of modern geology.
You can't say that. That's the similar argument to we cannot apply physics to test the thing that happened in the past because science only deals with things that are reproducible and testable right here and now. No. Absolutely not. Dude, we have found amino acids in outer space that through electrocution literally create the proteins that are needed to create life. So we do not need Doc to bring us the DeLorean so that we can travel back in time and see how evolution on a bare bone molecular level could occur. That's not how it works.
Another big thing that this book delves into is the classic kind of creationist talking point of complaining about uniformitarianism, which is the idea in geology that the processes we see before us today have always been the same, for the most part, for all of Earth's history. And so we can use the geologic and hydrologic processes we see on Earth today to explain the conditions of the Earth in the past. Creationists don't really like this, because in order for the Earth to have ended up looking like this in just, a handful of thousands of years, processes would have needed to have acted completely differently in the not too distant past. So of course these processes take place at different rates in different areas, but no shit. If Mount St. Helens had erupted 1 million years ago, the exact same thing would have happened to the ash that would happen right now. And geologists, get this, would be able to apply what happens in front of us right now to understand that volcanic eruption 1 million years ago.
Yeah.
So they would find the compressed rock that is made out of the ash from that volcano that maybe has a canyon through it, and they would know to themselves, this was probably formed rather quickly because it was volcanic ash, because it works the same way now. While this misunderstanding is obviously goofy, it may kind of seem like it doesn't really matter, because it's like, well, what's the big implication here? Well, here's the big implication here. Totally.
Oh, he died.
The battery died. Girl, you've been here for fucking 20 minutes. I need you to relax.
Extension cords.
Oh, yeah, baby. Got my 75-foot long extension cord for a reason. See? This is why God created the 75-foot long extension cord. Few geologists dispute the strata surrounding the Grand Canyon were laid down by the sea, but many geologists dispute the length of time that was required for the layers to be deposited. They really don't. Or if they do, it's like, within a reasonable geologic time span. They're not disputing it in the same way that these people are disputing it. Uniformitarian geologists believe that the sea may have covered Arizona several times over millions of years, and that the strata were deposited during these inundations. They say that millions of years of subsequent erosion by the Colorado River carved the canyon. But many Bible-believing scientists believe that the Grand Canyon strata were deposited by the worldwide flood described in the Bible, and that the canyon itself was cut quickly by runoff from the flood.
That doesn't make any sense. So that would be like saying that the Chicxulub, right, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, when we are observing the layers there and seeing the rocks from outer space that left sediments there, leaving off with stuff like an iridium layer, that the water also did this, or when God was raining fire and brimstone upon Sodom and Gomorrah, they did actually hit the rest of the earth. Like,
oh, my cabbages!
Come on. Don't do this. Like, we can test these things.
So that's why this is important, people, because what the fuck? If all of this sediment was deposited in one event, it would probably be, get this, pretty uniform, because it was one event worth of sediment that was all deposited at once. So you might get some changes, but you're not going to get this layer cake like you do at the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
You know why? Because that same process is happening today. It's called uniformitarianism. So I don't know what this argument is. We have extensive geologic knowledge about the Grand Canyon. It is probably the single most well-studied geologic feature on the entire planet. So pretty much just saying nuh-uh is not gonna cut it here. Sorry. After this, it moves to a really great little section called Bible-believing scientists of the past, to show that, many of the greatest scientists of the past were creationists, and for that matter, were also Bible-believing Christians. They believed that God had supernaturally created all things, each with its own complex structure for its own unique process, or its own unique purpose. I can't read. The thing that I just want to point out is in this gigantic list of all of these scientists,
there it is.
Pretty much all of them end by the very early 1900s. There's one that's John A. Fleming in electronics from 1849 to 1945, and as far as I can see, that is the most recent of any of the people on this list. There's ones in here that are from fucking 1570. Johannes Kepler.
Hey,
are we
Denmark.
surprised at all that a guy in 1570 was a creationist?
And and this one is actually pretty good, because Johannes Kepler, I have been to the island where he used to work, Vane. He worked for fucking god, Tycho Brahe in English. We say Tycho Brahe in Danish. And he was sponsored by the Danish government, by the church, who was very much in ties with the government at the time, until we had, my god, Ineville, how do we say that in English again? Until we got rid of absolutism, right, where the king was no longer going to rule over everything, and we started slowly building the steps towards making a democracy and stuff. But Tycho Brahe, I hate saying that like that, but Tycho Brahe was branded a heretic because he only, like a lot of Danes, only believed because, for the most part, because it was just a cultural thing to do. Like, think of Frankie from One Piece, for the fellow One Piece or Weeb fans out there, because Tycho Brahe had the golden nose, who is just making his inventions, and suddenly the world government comes and knocks at his door and goes like, are you actually following the rules? Are you praying to God while you're doing this? He goes like, sure. Then go somewhere and sniff some cola or something. And like, if you want to argue about their understanding of things, think of just like his model, Tycho Brahe's model of like celestial movement of the solar system. He depicted one that had at a time 6 planets, right? 6, and they were revolving around the sun, except that the sun was also revolving around the earth. They had a limited understanding of how things worked. And Johannes Kepler, who followed in his footsteps, did more or less the same until he improved on a lot of his views of celestial movements. He, by the way, is the one whose namesake was given to the Kepler telescope. So, small facts for you.
It's really funny to be like, see guys, look at all these dudes that were creationists, and then just refer to a time in history where it was the best understanding that we had of the world because we hadn't discovered science yet. It's like, no shit. Wow, Blaise Pascal, you were born in 1623 and died in 1662. Why didn't you believe in evolution?
He's fucking killing me with these pronunciations. Blaise Pascal. Granted, as a French speaker, I know who this person is. The French mathematician, also a philosopher, who invented the first calculator, but it's pronounced Blaise. But I'm sorry, I don't know why this is so funny to me, but it just is.
Okay, chapter 11.2, the record of the rocks. So this chapter starts off with giving a definition of what fossils are, which is very helpful, and then it moves to talking about how a fossil is formed. In order for a plant or animal to become a fossil, it must be protected from scavengers and decomposition. Most of the time, this occurs when the organism is quickly buried by waterborne sediments. What do you think they're going to say next?
The flood! Bingo!
Conditions like those we would expect to be present upon the Earth during and immediately following a worldwide flood. Obviously, Christian geologists and Uniformitarian geologists have different views about the fossil record. Uniformitarian geologists interpret the fossils of the Earth's crust as evidence of evolution. They believe that the fossil record demonstrates a progression of simple organisms to a more complex organisms over millions of years. Like, that's just exactly what it shows. We literally have hundreds of millions of years of evolution shown in rock layers where we can see organisms changing over time. So it's not just like a belief. Like, you look at that and what the fuck else are you going to explain about it? See, that's another thing I'm noticing here is they'll kind of like invoke the Bible and then say, you know, scientists believe this dumbass shit, and they don't really explain how the Bible is supposed to explain the thing that they're poo-pooing because it's incompatible with the Bible. Isn't this a fucking textbook? Shouldn't this be explaining shit to me and not just making me be more confused?
That's because having to explain that will be incredibly weird. Because then you have to pull out lines like the day to year principle from 2 Peter 3:8. Like, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. And you're like, what the fuck? And every single different creed is going to apply their own interpretation of that. Some are going to dispute that, no, we were not simply arguing for young Earth creationism, because then the 7 days actually will apply 7 extra 1,000 years. So there are some less younger Earth creationists who are stretching the creation of the Earth to a bit more than 10,000 years, but it's still we're not even in the ballpark of millions. And I get that this might be somewhat of a children's book here that is explaining things in a simple manner. But what will frustrate me now as an adult, and the more I get to learn about even fields that I am not specialized in, is that as we do that as well in science, right? A lot of the books that I have that I was given when I was way younger to learn about like the human body still has like some complex stuff to learn about. Yet at the same time, they do lay the groundwork for you to investigate further, so that you know that as you get older, things will be a bit more complex. Your understanding of, let's say, biology will not just have to deal with chromosomes and hormones. You will have to learn about gamete structure and all of those things if you actually want to go truly deep into it. But here, there doesn't even seem to be an effort to let people to want to learn more about it. And that is, of course, not to put shade about the written word in the Bible whatsoever, but if they actually wanted to do a good job at urging people to actually want to understand what the creationist perspective truly is, urge them to do further reading.
Here it moves into complaining about the geologic column, the idea that older stone and organisms are found lower and, you know, it gets younger as you go up, for the most part. Obviously, things change and the Earth moves, but that's the general trajectory. The geologic column, Earth's shaky foundation. Holy shit, that's good. We got a graph of the geologic column, and one of the values is called assumed events. These include primitive apes, whales, first modern mammals, giant insects, first reptiles, extinction of trilobites, you know, we're just fucking guessing. It's like, we have a bunch of rocks all stacked on top of each other where there's trilobites that all look a little bit different throughout time, and then they disappear and there's none here today. Complete conjecture, let's just assume they evolved. Although it is presented as conclusive evidence for evolution, the geologic column crumbles upon closer inspection. The first problems with the geologic column is that the succession of fossils it indicates occurs nowhere in the world. There is not a place on the Earth where you can see the complete geologic column at one time.
That's not how it works. Bruv, oh my god. It's the same. Here's a bit.
Few moments.
God damn it, I thought that I could find my book on the human body, but it's not here. My daughter has it. I don't know where she misplaced it. She probably put it somewhere within her toys. But in a similar way as we have discussed in the Philip Zeba video about the expansion of man to like further regions of the world, right? We're going to be looking at like Australopithecus africanus as an example. And then we see the evolution to Homo sapiens as the final stage. Except that we are kind of ignoring the fact that there were other branches of man present at the time. Like Homo neanderthalis were in Europe already. Like, why aren't you considering that? The fact that people were spread all around the world already? Like, it is so confusing that people are just literally not thinking things through before uttering such statements.
Oh my god. I can't believe that they give this to children. I can't believe they give this to children. These are the same people that they fucking complain about indoctrination, and then they give this to children. Okay, this is a photo of the geologic column. This is what they're talking about. You've seen this image before. It shows life changing through time.
Right.
That's because this is a fucking diagram depicting life all over the world. This is life on Earth as it evolved and changed throughout time. Nowhere on the fucking planet has all of this, because how the fuck would you get all of this in one place? We know this column because you're pulling from different places all over the planet at different time periods because they're only preserved in different places around the world. I'm crashing out over a book about creationism. So when you find a really good fossil record from a certain area, it's normally only for a certain time span. I just did a video on the La Brea tar pits. You should go check it out.
Hey, dude, what if we find some giant blue whale skeleton in the Sahara Desert? What's your argument then going to be, huh? Checkmate, atheist.
It's like a great window into like a time period of about 10,000 years ago to about 40,000 years ago. That's it. If you go to the La Brea tar pits, you're not going to find a fucking, like, you know, T-Rex in it. It then talks about radiometric dating. It's going to do the classic thing that every pseudoscientist does where they claim that radiometric dating doesn't work. They claim that radiocarbon dating doesn't work. Pretty much anything that's able to disprove their idea, they're just like, nuh-uh. So, no, bullshit. Radiometric dating does work. Another problem within the geologic column are that fossils are commonly found in the wrong order and apparently undisturbed strata. Either the rocks contain fossils they should not contain, according to the geologic column, or they do not contain the proper sequence of fossils that they should contain. Do you want to give an example of that? Pseudo-archaeology! Holy shit! Yo, this is gonna be sick. Examples of misplaced fossils would include fossil plant remains found in the wrong strata.
Modern horses.
I remember that one. Who could forget the fossil plant remains found in the wrong strata? Modern horses found alongside or beneath their ancestors, and trilobites found in later eras. Do we want to know anything about the deposition here? Is this in flowing water? There's all kinds of geologic processes that can move things around. You guys say old on the bottom, young on the top. Anything in between that is a proof that you're wrong. It's like, no. We well know that things can move.
Yeah.
Geology is rocks fucking moving and shit.
I talked about that last video. The whole, people supposedly found fish on in the Himalayas on top of Mount Everest. Yeah, I wonder how that got there. Fossils, by the way, not just a fish. There wasn't like an updraft or something. No.
So yeah, sometimes things can get mixed up. That's not like a 100% law that old is always on the bottom and young is on the top. Among the most interesting anomalies, however, are human fossils, prints, and artifacts found in the wrong strata, because evolutionists believe that modern humans appeared less than 200,000 years ago. These apparent anomalies pose serious problems for the evolutionary timeline. Among these anomalies are human skulls found in seemingly undisturbed ancient rocks. In the 1800s, full human skulls were unearthed and in undisturbed Pleistocene strata in Casanodolo, Italy. That is the Casanodolo skull. It is on the Awful Archaeology Wheel of Pain. I'm not going to go into all these examples because all they're doing is taking little individual discoveries and they're like, see? That was a little bit different than the order that they say it is. Even though every single archaeologist or geologist or paleontologist know that there's going to be a little plus minus, and they actually work to explain those discrepancies instead of using a single discrepancy as an excuse to wave away an entire field of science that is well established. But this is just classic pseudoscience, where they pick one thing where they're like, see, here was a time science was wrong about a thing, or here's a way it's very slightly different in a nuanced way. And therefore, here is your right to wave away all of the science that challenges your worldview.
Makes me think of the good old vaccine cause autism bit from what's his name? If Google was a guy, remember that one?
Vaccines cause autism?
Well, I have 1 million results that say they don't, and 1 result that says they do.
I knew it.
Okay, effects of the flood.
Oof.
We can be sure that the flood occurred as the Bible tells us, but we cannot determine the exact geological effects of the flood upon the earth from reading the scriptural account.
We? Who's we? Don't rope me into this.
Too bad Noah didn't save any of the geologists. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff talking about Noah's Ark. Thrilling. The Ark was designed to hold a pair of every kind, not necessarily species of animal on Earth.
Why did it do that?
Well, that's a dick move. Okay, wow, that's just 4 pages explaining Noah's Ark and saying that it happened because the story of Noah's Ark exists. So that's good enough evidence for me.
How did the penguin get from Antarctica all the way to the boat? Explain. I also like how it goes like kind and not species, because they can essentially just go like, no, the penguins weren't emperor penguins. We're not talking about happy feet here. They could have likely just been the ones from Tasmania. Like, shut the front door.
Geologists recognize that floods and other catastrophes have been part of Earth's history. Geologists understanding that something we see today has been able to happen for all of Earth's history. I don't know, I heard that whatever it is doesn't exist though, so it must be different. Thus far, however, most uniformitarian geologists are not ready to admit to the fact of the Genesis worldwide flood. Admit to the fact. Like, they know, they just don't want to admit it, you know? Oh man, this raises my blood pressure. The very existence of a fossil implies catastrophic burial. This is true because in order for a fossil to form, it must be buried quickly before it decays and its bones are scattered or decomposed. As a rule, conditions conducive to quick burial occur only in catastrophic events such as volcanic eruptions, landslides, mudflows, or floods.
No.
Not necessarily. It could also be falling in a river and being covered by sediments. It can be sinking to a bottom of a lake and being covered by sediments. It does not have to be catastrophic, but they are saying this in order to prime the pump to think that the only way fossils are able to form is from one gigantic, you know, like fucking Michael Bay-ass movie event. Lack of transitional forms. Oh my god.
Well, shit, if it only occurs through catastrophic events, then where is the fossil of Lot's wife, huh? She was conserved in a pillar of salt, wasn't she?
Oh, my cabbages!
Jesus.
Have you guys seen that clip from, what is it from? Is it Futurama?
Why has no one found the missing link between modern humans and ancient apes?
We
Yeah.
did find it. It's called Homo erectus.
No one has found the link between apes and this Homo erectus.
Yes.
It's called Homo habilis.
Aha! But no one has found the missing link between
Australopithecus.
apes and the so-called Homo habilis.
It's called Australopithecus africanus.
Oh, I've got you now.
Do you not fucking see the general trend line here? The fossil records contain no such progression. If evolution were true, if organisms have gradually changed into other organisms over time, there would be many fossils of intermediate forms, but this is not the case. Oh my god.
my.
It's just so sad watching someone try and talk about science when it's not even that they don't understand it. I mean, they don't understand it.
They don't
but they
want
just
to.
don't want to understand
Yeah.
it. Yet not one transitional fossil has been found. What the fuck do you want a transitional fossil to be? Do you want like a fucking half lizard and then the other half is like that woodchuck in my yard or something like that? Like, what are you expecting from a transitional fossil? I mean, they're not expecting anything. This is just a nuh-uh. Archaeopteryx. I love Archaeopteryx. A fossil bird is a link between reptiles and birds. A closer look at Archaeopteryx, however, reveals that it was evidently a true bird, with completely modern flight, feathers, and hollow bones like most birds today. It did have some unusual features, such as a small breastbone, teeth, an elongated tail, and claws on its wings, but several birds, including some still alive today, share many of these features. So you're saying that this is a fucking transitional fossil? It's literally the thing you're asking for.
Okay, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Isn't this just vestigial structures? Isn't that the whole thing that both whales and snakes have, where they can't walk like their ancestors could, but they still have like legs stored close to like their torso next to their lungs and stuff, that they either use for mating or for other purposes, or sometimes they're just useless. This is literally a thing.
It's not a true bird. It's an ancient bird that has some characteristics of fucking reptiles that aren't seen in a lot of birds today because most of them don't have those anymore because they've changed. What the fuck? Okay. Species versus kind. The biblical kind is usually a broader category than our modern term species. For example, it is likely that the gray wolf, the red wolf, the coyote, the dingo, and the domestic dog, 5 different species, all belong to the same biblical kind, and that they are all trace their lineage to a single pair of canines. Creationists recognize that the origin of new species within a kind does occur. The origin of new species within a kind, however, is not the same thing as changing one kind into another. What? So, hold on. Okay. So, you believe that gray wolves, coyotes, dingoes, and all the different types of domestic dogs came from one canine.
So
Yeah?
they evolved?
And it was through a process called evolution. How the fuck? So if they acknowledge that that's possible to happen, why the fuck would it be wrong to say that that's always been happening? Oh my fucking god. Okay, you know what? That camera's dead. I'm charging that camera now. Fucking, we're gonna just roll with this. All right, we're gonna breeze through this last little section because I'm getting real fucking sick of this. The evolution of man, a mistaken belief. I'm gonna just go to the bold thing that's sticking out to me. No missing links in the supposed chain of human evolution have been found.
Stop.
Okay, but they have though. We have a really good chain of the human evolutionary tree. We know how this works. I know I said my whole thing about transitionary species earlier, but as far as like the missing link, we found a shit ton of them. Play the fucking Futurama clip again.
Oh, I've got you now.
The alleged transitional forms that evolutionists have proposed over the years can be considered either 100% ape or 100% human. No, you're the one doing that. You're doing that in order to make it seem like a transition can't happen. But you're not going to say that because then you have to talk about how things change, how kinds change.
Yeah, and I remember one of the harshest argument that I've ever heard proposed to me was like, you're a man of science, aren't you? I was like, well, that's a weird way of phrasing it. I study it, but I'm not exactly a practicing physicist. So, yeah, sure. And then the person was like, so how can you support evolution when the likes of Darwin were racist? I'm like, oh. Really? Are we gonna do this? Are we really gonna do this? Like 1960, Oppenheimer goes to Japan and teaches them about nuclear physics. Like, bro literally made the atom bomb that destroyed them. Does it mean that the science is invalid? I don't get it. Why is it so hard to just admit that there are things that are difficult for you to understand? They do not require a creator or a biblical explanations. Things are complicated, and that is fine. Ask for help. There are professionals that are more than willing. Like, during my thesis, I wrote to professors who did not know me at all, and they were willing to provide me with sources, and some I actually met personally to work with. You can do these things. Like, to a certain degree, I can't defend the act of not wanting to learn. That's the thing that irritates me the most, when there's like straight up an opposition against it, because it doesn't support your narrative.
Oh man, Neanderthals. The fossil evidence suggests that these individuals were intelligent, used tools, paint, and fire, and buried or cremated their dead. Thus, there is little doubt that these fossils were 100% human and represent either an extinct race of humans or humans with vitamin deficiencies that caused unusual skeletal features. Oh man. So, I'm going to go with the first one. They're not an extinct race of humans. They are an extinct species of humans. It's not that hard. Holy shit, I gotta take a photo of that. I know this is dead, but, my god. The views of origins. Evolution, creation by chance, and
That's
special
a meme.
creation by
That's
God.
a meme.
Special creation is like the Chad emerging out of the light, and evolution, creation by chance, is like half a human form, like, crawling out of, like, this green ooze.
Personally, I prefer this one, actually. It's pretty cool looking. It makes me think of like a Vertigo comic, or what's the imprint that the Sandman is written under? Isn't it Vertigo? Yeah, that's straight up like a panel from the Sandman. Oh, the other one kind of does too, but it's too simplistic. This one is arty as fuck. It's pretty cool.
Good argument, but I've already depicted myself as the result of divine creation and you as the half-human crawling out of the primordial ooze. You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. This is a
That's
good
a
meme
meme.
format, guys, actually. I'm going to get a really nice high-res image of this, get a screenshot of this. If I don't see this image in a meme format pop up on my feed for like a completely unrelated topic to anything we've discussed today, I'll be very disappointed. Okay, finally we're at the end of this chapter. I've glanced over a lot of it because I just can't fucking do it. And we end with creation, the only reasonable belief. Despite appearances to the contrary, evolution remains a belief, not a proven historical or scientific fact. I love when creationists try and disregard evolution by saying it's just a belief, because that argument would also work for them, where what they believe is also just a belief, so I guess we're on equal footing then. Neither creation nor evolution can be proved scientifically, because science deals only with the events that are presently observable and experimentally repeatable. The creation versus evolution debate is not about what science says, but about what man believes.
They are doing the thing that I literally explained before. It's like predictable.
They are both presuppositions accepted by faith. As a scientific hypothesis, evolution is a failure. It is contradicted by the evidence, it is based on faulty theories and circular reasoning, and it is inconsistent with scientific reality. But most important, evolution fails as a hypothesis because of the lack of transitional forms. As we have seen, the gradual change of one kind into another kind is impossible.
That's what we have
Wait, what?
seen.
Oh, that's their word for species. Why do they have to make this shit so confusing? Because the transitional forms would not have been fit to survive. Why the fuck not? What about
Where does survival come into when you did not mention that a single time?
the transitional form between that, that canine and the fucking gray wolf? Where's the transitional form for that?
Okay. For those who care, through a video of Casual Geographic, I explained more or less how evolution should be working, but from the perspective of my beautiful cat, whom, by the way, for those who have been wondering where Nini is, we no longer have her. Yeah, I know, it's very sad. When we had to move, we could not take her to the farm, because we're living like pretty freaking close to a farm, where we're living right now, because we felt that it would have been a little bit too bad to have her just roaming around, especially because there are some animals there who might not be familiar with her and the whole thing. So she's being taken care of by another family that we know, so we do not have her currently. So for those who have been wondering about the lack of cat in my video, that's why. But yeah, that Casual Geographic video has a pretty good explanation of how that can occur, so if you want to check it out, feel free to do so.
What about the transitional form between that, you know, that canine and the fucking gray wolf? Where's the transitional form for that? Shouldn't there be one? They changed, didn't they? Or was it suddenly that the canine gave birth to a litter of puppies? One was a coyote, one was a gray wolf, and one was a fucking Pomeranian. You can tell that these people aren't scientists because they'll just be like, that theory is wrong, and then give absolutely no better explanation. The lack of transitional forms is most clearly illustrated in the supposed evolution of man. Although Darwin and other early evolutionists were confident that transitional forms between man and his ape-like ancestors would eventually be found, discovery after discovery merely reinforces the fact that man has always been man. It most certainly does not. That is literally just a straight up lie. Here is the evolutionary tree of humans. I'm sure we will find a lot more. Still waiting on Denisovans. We have fragments. We're going to find more of them. I can't believe that you can just say this shit and assume that kids are going to believe it because you don't give them access to phones and you homeschool them or something like that. What a fucking crime against humanity.
Speaking of the children, a thing that I find to be very disheartening is how it was that on the current administration, I am sorry that I'm making this political, Trump wanted to get rid of the Department of Education all entirely. But because he couldn't do so because of Congress, he opted to just create as much damage as possible. Like, remember Linda McMahon? Yes, whom got sworn to lead the Department of Education, just like how in his previous administration he had another crazy lady to do the same thing. Like, Christ on a stick. What does she know about education? The lady does not even know what the supposed tool that kids are going to be getting for application in school, AI, what that even is.
But that there is a school system that's going to start making sure that first graders or even pre-Ks have A1 teaching, every year starting, that far down in the grades. And that's just that's a wonderful thing.
But she was sworn in, and as she took her position, she announced that she was going to be laying off 1,300 employees. And the Department of Education is already the smallest one in the government. I'm pretty freaking sure of that. I might correct myself here. They freaking gutted the Department of Education, and as he got into office, he did sign an executive order that was to urge her to take all the necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return authority of education to the states and local communities. Now, I remember this pretty freaking well because a relative of mine living in Texas told me that they were going to do that to make sure that people will start praying in schools. And the thing that I dislike the most about this is the spread of misinformation, because there's always this talk about how it is that the left is indoctrinating children. Now, I don't have any particular love for a political party. I think that the Democrats also are kind of bad in the way that they handle things. I mostly care about policies, but the very people who are always complaining about how it is that they're turning kids into furries and the furries are demanding litter boxes, lies that are being debunked time and times again, but kept on being repeated despite being fact-checked, is bloody insane. Something that baffles me even more because a claim like that, the thing with the letterboxes, came out of where? Jefferson County. Where Columbine is located. So you would think that they would perhaps put a bit more time to check out whether or not these things were factually correct or not. By the way, this entire thing with the letterboxes is actually a pretty good example, because this was actually the real thing that this was accounting for was something that were called go buckets. And these were buckets that were put into classrooms that were stocked with like candy for diabetics, maps of the school, flashlights, wet wipes and first aid items, and also some cat litter. Now, if you've ever had a pet, I mentioned my cat before, you'll know that it has a lot more practical uses than just being used for your cat. It can be used for a litany of things because of its absorbent properties. But that doesn't matter, because this go bucket existed because, get this, there are school shootings in the United States. They were meant to be there for kids who might be in such a wacky ass situation. But somehow the rumor about kids wanting to I don't know, do the number 2 in litter boxes just started spreading, despite it being clarified by the very people who ran the school in 2021. But naturally, of course, you had a lot of conservatives, especially Christian conservatives and the MAGA politicians, with the aid of none other than the main conspirator himself, Joe Rogan, pushing that shit.
I do that. I have the best job in the world. I get to talk shit with 0 responsibilities. If I get something wrong, I go, listen, I'm a moron. Why are you listening to me in the first place?
The claim was fact-checked again and again and again, but people all over America kept running with it, to the point where they wanted to pass what was called the Furry bill. And the thing is, again, I'm using this as an example to just highlight how these things can spread like wildfire and how much work is needed to be done so to mitigate these or rectify them. I know that some of you may have heard this story, but you don't quite know how it ended. And that is because after the entire thing, the furry bill was not passed because the furries aren't been banned, right? I even recently learned that the furry VTubing is a prominent thing. The reason for that is that it was a smokescreen to peddle something that's called school choice.
Today, school choice becomes law in the great state of Texas.
Amen. Jesus Christ. I declare that children who have been beaten down by the struggles in the academic system that did not fit the system will now be empowered as they begin to find the right school setting that's going to support them and to allow them to grow in confidence in who God created them to be. Amen. Amen.
I am likely going to be inserting a clip here that shows you what happened before the furry bill got proposed. They were using this to sign in school choice as a way to empower kids who have not been, or at least who have not had possibilities to thrive in normal school settings. Or at least that is how that was framed. The reality is that they know that poor people already don't have enough resources or time to equip themselves or their children for regular ass school. So they make these propositions, invent some bullshit problems that hold no water, and pass what is essentially welfare for the wealthy. Because at every single occasion that school vouchers are being proposed to people, Americans don't want that. So they need to find finicky ways of pulling out the tax dollars from the public sector, which in the least has some standards which should be improved. I'm not arguing that at all, it's not perfect. But they take that money and put that into some private sector to then peddle, mind my French here, some bullshit that is revolving around a 6,000-year-old earth and how it is that slavery wasn't as bad, or a litany of other historical revisionism. Like, we all have struggles with these things. Even the Nordic model under which I was raised, under which I went to school, the thing that the Democrats, or rather even leftists, are peddling has a lot of flaws. Some of you who have watched this channel long enough know just how much I like school. I am basically like the success story that a lot of people might aspire to have, like child of an immigrant who goes to school in a new country that practically just gets all the good grades and has nothing but good experiences to talk about the school system. That was my experience, right? Like, humble bragging here a little bit, I once made a teacher cry with one of my presentations. That's how good I was and how much I liked school. On the other hand though, I have my partner today, the mother of my child, who due to her neurodivergence had been failed by the system. She's smart, super intelligent, beautiful, but like the literary smarts that she got is something that she only got to learn as she became an adult. And at that point, you are already being required to like have degrees, skills in this and that field to get an entry job wherever it might be. So we are polar opposites of a system that is said to be working properly, and as a result, once our daughter is going to be having to go to school, we are going to be struggling with where to put her in a private school or whatever. But most of our discussion is revolving around the allocation of the resources and how it is that the structure of a typical school day should be made. Not about the raw fundamental understanding of the world around us. Because that is where I think that the American system has failed a lot of you. That is where I think that the American system has failed a lot of you. And that should be rectified immediately.
On the contrary, belief in special creation is a reasonable belief supported by the fossil record. In fact, in light of the evidence, special creation is the only reasonable explanation for the origin of life. However, we believe in special creation not because of the fossil evidence, but because God's word says that God created the universe.
Yep.
Please clap. I can't believe they just give that to kids. And then they're the same people that complain about, like, indoctrination. You know, where they're like, I can't believe that, like, the woke media wants to teach our kids about, like, American slavery. I reserve the right as an American to brainwash my kid into not thinking that science is real. I said this at the beginning of the video, and I'll say it again. You do not have to believe in creationism to be a Christian, or to believe in God, or to have a faith system. This book is capitalizing on the misconception that science and faith are incompatible with one another. Since many of the fundamental parts of religion were created at a time where we didn't have explanation for these things, it can feel as if they're incompatible with one another. But it's my belief, and the belief of many others, that you can still believe in God, or a higher power, or a divine presence, or whatever the fuck you want, and still understand and accept the way that the world works.
Yeah.
I'm a very science-oriented person, but I consider myself to be a little bit spiritual, and I derive a huge sense of meaning and purpose from what we have been able to derive about science. The fact that the odds of my existence and that your existence are so infinitesimal that in the vast oblivion of the fucking universe, we are here. That's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And that's not to undermine people who feel as though their meaning and purpose comes from being created in the image of a divine creator and that they were sent here for a specific purpose. That's equally as inspiring. So the thing that frustrates me about this is literally nothing to do with religion or about faith or anything like that. It is the fact that this is a textbook clearly made for children that is indoctrinating children with pseudoscience. I don't know how else to say it. Anyway, that was a bit exhausting. And now I get to go back to scripting a much longer video about much more egregious creationism. So you guys look forward to that one. All right, folks, if you enjoyed this video and I was able to keep you company while you did your dishes or folded your laundry, I'd appreciate if you could leave an interaction on the video. Interactions help promote these videos in the algorithm so they can be seen by more people, which in turn allows me to continue making free educational and entertaining content here on YouTube. Like I say, interactions are like tipping the bellhop. It's absolutely free and helps me do what I do here. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my videos, and all of your names will be in the credits of this video as a small token of my appreciation. Link to my Patreon is in the description of this video if you'd like to support me there. And if you also want to support me, stickers! Go grab some stickers. Stick them on your face, stick them on your friend's face, stick them on the face of a guy that you've never seen in your life. And lastly, I want to give a really big thank you to my team for helping make all of these videos possible. You guys see a lot of me doing this, my song and dance up here, but the only reason any of these videos look remotely polished is because I have an amazing team backing me up. I'd be nothing without you guys. I love you all. Ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and most importantly, remember, the real origin of horses is unknown. What the fuck? Tracy I. Storer, evolutionist. The real origin of horses is unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, the smoking gun in the creation science debate.
What a smoking gun indeed. Pretty good video on Milo's part, and I know I might have yapped a little bit too much here, but yeah, it's a great topic to be talking about. And I want to preface one thing. Also, this is not a partisan issue, okay? This is something that is affecting Republicans, Democrats, or whatever alike. You're all going to be affected by this, and that's because it's mostly a class issue. As an example that I just remember there concerning the litter box case and the school choice there. The litter box situation was something that stopped peddling quite some time after the bill was shut down, right? And the school choices, which was passed, was aiming at making school vouchers a lot more prominent. Because there are think tanks, there are people who are actually trying to push that forth, because if school vouchers become a lot more prominent, the shift of funding from public institution to the private are going to be a lot higher. And if private institutions become a lot more, private investors are going to be deciding who and how it is that schools are ran. Look into the name of the likes of Jeff Yass. He was one of the donors who gave Greg Abbott, Yeah, I think it was Greg Abbott that pushed that bill, that pushed the school choice bill to pass, and he got donations of tens of millions of dollars to get that passed through. And this Jeff Yass is a billionaire who does not believe in income inequality. This is how bad it is. The healthcare sector says it, education says it, all of the sectors says it. It's all about a class issue, and yes, there are going to be disagreement when it comes to political alignment, and because some are perhaps a bit more religious than others, some are more liberal than others, but there are always unifying factors that all put you together, and for the most part, it is class. And I know that to the ears of some people, I'm kind of sounding like a commie right now, but the numbers don't lie. But anyways, thank you so much for checking out this video. I might have been spilling a bit more than you would have liked to, and much like how I and Milo even stated about Philip in previous video, you don't need to be making shit up when the government is already peddling enough to fuel what is actually justify conspiracy theories. But anyways, hope you liked the video. Have a great day. See you guys in the next one. Bye.